On our show today, we interview Mark Weber, former CEO and board member of Phillips Van Heusen Corporation, which owns and oversees such brands as Calvin Klein, Izod, Tommy Hilfiger, and Van Heusen. More recently, he was the former CEO of Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy Inc., acting as chairman and CEO of Donna Karan International, as well as having operational responsibility over Thomas Pink and Eden. Currently, he's the host of Always in Fashion, airing on 770 WABC Radio. Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm good, Jesse. How are you?
Good. Mark Weber, executive, author, and now talk radio show host. Quite the career. Did you ever think that a kid from Brooklyn would be doing all these kinds of things?
You know, my idea of a good time from Brooklyn was going into the elevator without someone having peed on the floor. I grew up in the city projects. It was not fun.
Was that your motivation to get out of there?
I just knew there was a better life, actually. I saw people living a better life than the one I was. So I figured there was an opportunity to make myself better.
Did you always know that you would get out of there? Were you always confident? Did you always know you'd be a success?
No. How would anybody know? I didn't start with any advantages. I saw other people had a better time of it than I was having. But I felt that if I applied myself and I went to school and I worked hard, that I had a shot at doing something. But I didn't know for sure.
Well, it sounds like the American dream, which you talk about a lot in your book and on your radio show. But when you talk about the American dream, you grew up in a radically different time than people do today. Technology is different. People have different values. Do you really believe that people can follow your model of the American dream today, especially someone that grows up in where you grew up, and could be a success?
Well, I'm not saying my model is right for anyone. I will say that I believe in the American dream. I believe that if someone, as I say in my book, packages themselves, you know, in the book I say, packaging yourself is as important as the products you package. So I would say to you, if you recognize that it's important the way you speak, the way you look, not everyone could be beautiful, not everybody's 6 foot tall, but you have to know how to look, you have to know how to present yourself, you have to know how to speak, you have to know how to write. I can't tell you how important it is expressing yourself in writing. So you have to put all of these things together to have a really good shot at being successful. That's what I believe, and it can happen.
Well, packaging yourself is, like you said, how to dress. What's the number one, how should I say it, fashion faux pas you see young men doing today?
Let's do it a little differently, if that's okay. I would tell you, you have to know when you look in the mirror what looks good and what doesn't. That's the key. You have to be self-aware, actually, to know what you look good and what you don't.
Do you have an outfit that you particularly like?
I am a little bit of a peculiar. I have a son at home who tells me I'm a cartoon character because I wear the same thing every day. I like white pants, white sneakers, a white t-shirt, and a black V-neck sweater. If it was up to me, I'd wear it 365 days instead of the 250 days that I do wear it.
That's good. Why radio?
Oh, very good question. I'd rather be on TV, but I have a face for radio. I got a little too old along the way. If I was this clever, I would have thought about it when I was your age. But for me, I've grown up listening to talk radio. I've driven to work my entire career. In fact, one of the motivations I had early on was to get out of the subway. I never enjoyed the subway. Now, I'll grant you, at my time it wasn't air conditioned, and I had to take 2 buses to get to the subway. And then, in fact, after I arrived in the city, take another bus or a cab from the terminal. So for me, getting out of the subway was important. I started to drive to work when I was probably 28, 29 years old and never looked back. But during the course of all that commuting, I always listened to talk radio. There would become a time where music just was too much and I wanted to listen. And having listened to talk radio, I became a fan. I kind of forgot about it along the way. Is this interesting?
Always is.
Thank you. After 9/11, with the shock that what happened, I by accident discovered NPR, National Public Radio, and I started to listen to them. And it left an impression on me even more so than when I was listening to talk radio. And National Public Radio was a calming force for me, and it was a source for information and gave me a lot of insight into what was going on. So for me, I always was involved in listening to talk radio to and from going to work. And because of that, I always had a desire to see whether or not I could do it. And over the course of my career, the accumulation of the experience and the stories gave me the belief that I could tell and be relevant on radio.
Well, there's a difference between obviously being a listener and then being a host. Did it come easy? Did it come naturally, jumping into the hosting position?
Well, getting the job seemed to be much more difficult than actually being on air, but you can't take it for granted. Being on the radio is a very, very complex thing, as is public speaking. As I like to say in the book, is the more prepared I get, the easier it looks. You wouldn't know it when I come up, or even being here today, although I must tell you, you didn't warn me what these questions would be. But when I public speak, I'm prepared. By the time I show up at that podium, I have my act down pat, like a band rehearsing before a gig. I know exactly how I'm going to go forward. My speeches are crafted. They're in order of presentation, and I know how I want to get in and get out. So doing that on the radio really has helped me because I approach it as if it was a speech.
What's your favorite part about being on the radio?
Meeting all the people who don't listen. I know what they're missing.
You know, many people say that you have a great radio voice. Do you believe that?
Human nature is a very funny thing. And the last thing I would ever say in the world that I had a radio voice, but now I'm on the radio. Everyone I meet who knows I'm on the radio tells me I have a radio voice. They also tell me I'd look good in doing your show, but I don't believe it.
I think you have a good radio voice. I think you have a good voice. I've listened to the show. You sing a lot, but then you stopped singing. You always used to sing "Are You Lonesome Tonight," and then you stopped. What, is it coming back? Are you going to sing more tunes?
Well, it's Saturday. You'll have to wait and see.
Now, like I said, I've listened to the show. The first several shows I've listened to, each one had a theme. You had politics, strategy, the state of the fashion industry. It's almost like each episode could be titled, each show could be like an episode of a TV show. Are you following a structure? Do you want to continue that each show is going to have a theme?
I have an obligation, I believe, to create a show that gives you business, fashion, and life. And each one of the segments, I try to do just that. I have an obligation. So each show begins with something about business, generally the fashion or the luxury business. From there, I like to take it into a real-life story or stories so that I make my point, emphasizing that I've lived through this and I'm not just making this up. And I came up with a component of the show that's called Anything Goes. And that's really a relief for me and the most fun part because there's no pressure. At Anything Goes, I'll talk about whatever I want and I'll take phone calls, which seems to be a fun part of the segments.
I listened to the call where you called, I forgot his name. He calls up, says that his wife was giving him a hard time. He'd been out of work for 6 months, and you got on the phone with his wife? Weren't you nervous about doing that?
Not at all. Not at all. You know, as I said in the show, for those of you, the listeners who aren't aware, this fella gets up after being out of work for a year, finally gets a job, and he's in his new job working extraordinarily hard to prove to his new bosses, actually, that he's working really hard and he's devoted to the company. And he gets home and his wife is giving him grief. She's extraordinarily unhappy with the amount of hours he's working. So reality is I know what it's like to be out of work, and so many of you people out there know what it's to be out of work. So this guy gets a job, and his wife's making him crazy. It didn't make any sense. So I said, you know what, I don't really want to talk to you. Let me talk to your wife. I put her on the phone. So he put her on the phone, and I said, very simply, I said, listen, generally speaking, anytime there's an argument, the guy's always wrong. Always wrong. I've never seen a situation where the woman's wrong, but I have to tell you, you might be wrong on this one. That's what I said to her. I said, do you like your husband? Don't you appreciate the fact that he's bringing home money? So that's how I dealt. It just seemed like the natural thing to talk about.
Well, I'm sure he was happy about that call, how that turned out.
I told him I straightened her out, and hopefully he's at home with her and she's behaving and appreciating that he's bringing in money. Work is very important to humans, very important to guys. Little lions going out there, bringing home the meat. This guy was out of work, he got a job, and now he's back in his groove, and I thought that was important to point out.
So, I mean, it seems like he benefited from certain lessons on your show. What are you hoping?
Whoa. I think she benefited.
Both of them benefited then?
Yeah, of course, both. But she benefited because I think she got an opportunity to think straight about the way she was behaving. She likes him. She told me she loves her husband, so if you love him, give him support. He wasn't doing anything wrong. He was doing it for them.
That's fair. Now, but what are you hoping listeners get from the show in general?
Well, listen, I'm on the radio, so my job is to entertain, and I hope they're having a good time listening to the show. I do believe that the show, you asked the question earlier, I'm not sure I answered it. I'm teaching people a formula for being successful. That's what I'm trying to do. And each particular show deals with a different segment of what you need to do to be successful, or what you consider doing for being successful. I did plan for this week's show to be about careers, and now I'm going to start inserting career opportunities in the luxury business and talk about what exists and what you might have to be good at as well. So I believe in one hand I'm doing a public service because I am trying to talk in a practical way to people about what may or may not be successful in their careers, and at the same time give them some lessons. And the reality is because of the career I had, I have a lot of real life examples. And why I think my book was effective was because I've lived it the hard way. I didn't grow up on the silver spoon. I didn't have relatives who came over on the Mayflower. I really had no opportunity growing up in the city projects, other than the idea that I think if I work hard I could be successful. I think that comes across. It's not like some guy who had everything given to him talking about success. It's someone who really came up from the streets and made it happen.
Do you have any plans to interview people on the show?
I do have plans to interview, but
who do you have lined up?
Here's the problem. As I say on the show, I'm not hiding it. I'm giving them a back of the scenes tour of the show. I'm on 10 o'clock at Saturday night. Who listens to radio at 10 o'clock on Saturday night?
I do. I listen. I'm a fan of the show.
Thank you. You were going to interview me, so you got prepared. But I'm kind of rebelling against the station. There's no question I have to prove myself, and I'm starting all over as if this was my first job. What do I know about broadcasting? Nothing. But I seem to have affinity for it. But I do believe that I have to get on a better hour, and I've made it known privately and publicly right on the airwaves. What am I doing here so late at night? So, to a long answer to a short question, I'm avoiding bringing on guests until they give me a better time slot. And for now, I think I can keep people interesting. Are you bored yet from this?
No, it's very entertaining. That's why I asked. I figured, I've heard you talk to people on the radio that call in, and it's almost like a mini interview, and it's fascinating. So who would you love to interview when you actually do set up interviews?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Do you know him personally?
Donald Trump. Let's see, which was it? This probably the second show. This week will be my sixth. I did a show on being angry at the politicians. In this case, I was angry at Donald Trump for not defending his position on the apparel business, why it moved offshore, why he wasn't making his products in the United States. And I was equally disappointed in Senator Clinton because she kept saying Donald Trump only cares about making clothes with poor people. And they're both right, but they're both wrong. I care about poor people. Everyone does. We should. We're giving them better lives. But in his case, I negotiated the deal with Donald Trump for his clothing. So I know him, and yes, I took it a little more personally than someone else might have, because I was involved with NAFTA, and what people don't realize at the time, NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Association Agreement, was designed to help American businesses. Now, whether it did or didn't is a long conversation, but we supported that, and Mr. Trump supported it. So I think the accusations are unfair in this regard.
Interesting. What about someone from the fashion world? Who would you love to interview?
Well, everybody would want to interview Anna Wintour,
sure.
I'm sure. Not sure I could drive her into that studio at 10 o'clock at night on Saturday. I've put in a call to Donna Karan. I've put in a call to Tommy Hilfiger. There are some business leaders like the CEO of Michael Kors himself as well. There are people I'd love to talk to. My former friends from LVMH. Bernard Arnault or Antonio Belloni, their president. These are people that would make fascinating interviews. But I do need the show to get better airtime and some publicity. Hey, WABC, when you see us, we could be bigger.
You heard it here, folks. WABC, we're going to try to get this a better time slot.
Thank you.
Now, like I said, I think you're a great radio host. I know you've been on the air for several weeks now, and I think you're doing great, and it's a really fascinating show. But a lot of people also may not know that you also have a consulting business. So is there anything that you miss about the corporate world in general?
Everything and nothing.
Okay.
Consulting I hate. If I could give it up, I'd give it up tomorrow. But some people actually think I have something to do that can help them, and I don't mind being a helping person to them. Mm-hmm. And of course, getting paid for it.
Right.
But the problem with consulting, you have no skin in the game. You give your recommendations, you walk away, you don't know the results, you don't stay close. I do miss being on the line and on the firing line. I like challenges, I like problems, I like fixing them. I like the idea that you can make a difference. I've always felt directly responsible for the people and the lives I affect, and trying to provide them with better careers and the guidance they have to get ahead. Having said that, I also like being home. And the radio gives me this freedom that I think I earned after all these years in business.
But if you had to go back and you had to work in the corporate field, are there any companies out there that you would love to work for? Maybe ones that are not doing so well and you could turn around like you did with Donna Karan International?
Well, I would tell you that I admire the Ralph Lauren company more than anything, Polo Ralph Lauren. I would love to work there just because the clothes and the man and the institution they built is great. They're struggling right now, and I think I could help them. If you're serious about it, get me an interview. That aside, I always felt that I could fix the Gap. You know, when I was a young man, your age, the Gap was Uniqlo. Those of you who know who Uniqlo is, Japanese company, I don't want to go there now, but Gap used to be amazing. I had a Gap addiction. It was impossible to walk into the Gap without buying $100 to $200 worth of things. I'm still wearing things from 20 years ago when they were great. They lost their way, and they're not great, and they've been struggling. And maybe again, this show, people will see me and get me the job on the Gap. I could be their CEO. The Gap has the ability. They're in every city in America. They have the ability to be amazing, and they just lost their way. I would tell you that in the fashion business or the luxury business, product is key. In the luxury and fashion business, we're in the business of selling things to you that you don't need. We're in the want business. Well, our job is to convince you want things that you don't need. The Gap used to be great at it, they're not anymore. So I would say to you, Polo and the Gap.
What do you want but don't need right now?
What do I want? I want my stinking radio show to be on a better time slot, and I'd like to be every night during the week.
Do you hear this?
And I want to make millions of dollars doing it.
Well, we're here to help. That's what this show is about, to help you get that.
Thank you.
Now, your show cuts in a lot of quotes and songs and things from pop culture. What's your favorite movie?
The Godfather.
Why?
I think next to the Bible, there's nothing more important than The Godfather. They carry so many issues in life. Business, personal, family. I think it's an amazing movie. Godfather 1 and 2. I find people still quoting it, and there's never a day that goes by that I can't figure out something that I've seen in that movie. I also will tell you my favorite movie is, one of my favorite movies, and my favorite scenes are Few Good Men. The courtroom scene between Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson.
Yep.
Yeah, that's my favorite scene of any movie anywhere.
Yeah.
Can you handle the truth?
You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
That's right, I do.
Well, speaking of quotes, you have a famous one. I don't know if I'm smart, but I know I'm well trained. What do you mean by that?
Well, first of all, I think it's very important in business and life to have a certain degree of humility. I'd like to think I could be humble in spite of my exterior and the way I'm talking to you right now. I appreciate everything I got, and nothing that I have did come easy. But I do believe that I have done some things very well. And what I'll assign the reason is a large degree of hard work, a certain degree of the drive to be excellence, a little bit of smarts, but a lot of great training and a lot of great mentors who helped me learn along the way. Without them, I wouldn't have been sitting here talking to you tonight.
So what's next for Mark Weber?
Your job.
Hosting? Being an interviewer?
Hosting. What's next? I told you. Right now, everybody wants to know what's going on. I can't convince people that I'm happy being a radio talk show host. You see, I guess radio as a medium is not what it used to be, but to me it is, because I told you, I drive in every day and I listen to the radio. Even now, I came to New York listening to the car radio. So I really, really like this. I am a big fan of Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity on the radio. I love Michael Savage, Mark Levin. If I could get a nationally syndicated show, I'm more than happy. That's all I need. Remember, I've been doing this a long time.
I say it because it's great. No one knows where you're going next. You started as an executive, became an author, now a radio talk show host. Who knows what's next? Politics, TV. I had to ask because I'm curious.
If you ask me what would the one thing I would like to do if I could just call my own shot, I'd like to do something in the movies.
Okay.
The problem I have is when I look myself in the mirror, I know inside here it's 23 years old, but it doesn't look like that on the outside.
You look great to me.
I don't think the camera's friendly to me anymore.
I don't know about that. We'll be the judge. I'm sure it looks great.
We'll see.
Mark, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Great.
Thank you.